with the CRW level 4 class, the things that are taught in this class are different from the CRW L5 class. Now, when we are taking the lessons, and let's say you do sign up, which I hope you do, it's not just going to be writing. There is also going to be some reading involved. Okay, so throughout the lessons, throughout our weekly lessons, there are times where we will be going over like some reading passages, some non-fictional reading passages, that you normally see on state exams. Depending on where you're at, I know you said you live in Michigan yesterday, but that is part of the curriculum as well. Okay, so we do go over some reading passages where there are questions that follow, comprehension questions that follow, and you'll notice when we do start the semester and we start with the classes, you're going to notice that those reading passages might seem a little similar. When you take those state exams, like when it's the reading exam and they give you a reading passage and then the questions follow.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how it's going to be here as well, because like I said, this is just overall practice for you. We still do expect our students to take this class very serious, because like I said, we do give you guys assignments. There are assignments. It is not a heavy load of assignments. The majority of the things that we do, we cover in class, because when the class does start for the semester, it's an hour and a half. Okay, so it's once a week. So you'll have that class depending on if it's a Tuesday or a Wednesday or a Thursday, when we set the schedule, whatever works best for our students, and the schedule is set. So it's an hour and a half class, and it's weekly. So let's say if there's going to be a homework assignment that I'm going to provide to you all or ask you guys to complete, you will have the whole week to get it done until the following Wednesday. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
It's not like I'm going to say, okay, your homework's going to be due tomorrow. No, it'll be due the following class.
Yeah.
So we understand that you have a caseload with your work from school, and then to throw this on top of it, it's how you manage your work, and you need to make sure you manage it correctly, organize yourself so that you can also get it done. All right, so the first couple of slides are kind of similar to yesterday's. We do this, just to engage our students, being that this is a different course, but it does seem similar to you, being that you were in yesterday's class. I do throw it in similar, so it engages the students, just kind of how it engaged you guys yesterday, and it was a topic of conversation. What I am going to start us off with today is I'm going to ask, I'm going to have you watch this video. Okay. So the main thing of this lesson is writing logically accurate with fact-based arguments. Okay, so I know I went into this yesterday. When you're writing an argumented essay, the evidence and the claim that you choose to go with, and the evidence that you choose to bring into your writing, it's very important that your reasoning about all of that together makes sense, and you're able to make your point across for the reader to understand. Why is it that you're making this argument? So as you can see here, for the level 4 class, it's more of a 101 on building the arguments. The level 5 class didn't really show this, because we're already expecting you to understand what an argument entails, what an argumentative essay entails. So we skip over these first couple of slides. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this video for you, because it is part of the class, and I know you're the only one here, but so I do want to thank you for being here. Do me a favor. Do you have pen and paper near you?
Yeah.
Go ahead and get that for me, because I'm going to ask you to take a couple of very simple notes, the best that you can, while I show you this video. I will show you this video twice, just in case you miss important stuff, because I know it's hard to catch everything the first time. So don't feel like you got to be writing at 1,000 miles per hour. Watch the video, take it in, and then the second time, if you want to take the notes, then you can do that. Okay.
All right.
So what is an argument? This video is going to talk to us about what an argument is.
Hello, readers. Today we...
Let me raise the volume a bit and let me get full screen. All right.
Hello, readers. Today we shall take the field in rhetorical combat, also known as argument. Argument is when an author wants to convince you of their position. This is my position. You should share this position, and here is why. Argument does not sneak. It does not come in through the back. It is supported by reasons, evidence, examples, not just pure opinion, not just cherry-picked stories, data, fact, observable reality. There is a place for pure subjective opinion, and it is the realm of the movie and the restaurant review. I did not like this movie because I didn't laugh at its jokes. I did not enjoy the hamburger I got because I found it too dry for my liking. This is not what we're talking about today. Obviously, argument is rooted in opinion and subjective personal preferences, but those opinions need to be backed up with evidence. Let's compare arguments for and against a tax on soda. Now, this writer argues that sugar contributes to obesity, and therefore people should be prevented from buying soda, which is full of sugar, on the grounds that it is bad for them. Let's take a look. The soda tax could alter many people's behavior, causing them to stop buying sugary drinks. Some foods are necessities, like milk, eggs, and bread. People will buy them even if the prices increase. Sugary drinks aren't necessary. If the price goes up, people will buy fewer sugary drinks, and they won't be consuming as much sugar. Therefore, the obesity rate will go down. Whereas this author counters that people have a right to make what they see as unhealthy decisions. Soda and other sugary drinks have been targeted because they lack nutrition and are basically just liquid sugar. Most people agree that proper nutrition is important for maintaining a healthy lifestyle. However, do legislators have the right or responsibility to regulate people's sugar intake in order to improve their health? I say no. All right, let's evaluate these claims. For the first argument, in favor of the soda tax, how this is true? What evidence does this author give that this tax will alter people's behavior? What evidence does this author give that sugary drinks aren't seen to be as essential as milk? After all, not everyone can or does drink milk. In the piece, the evidence that the author gives us is this table, which shows how much sugar is in soda per serving, but it doesn't use evidence to connect sugar consumption to unhealthy outcomes. All this says is soda has a lot of sugar. I want to see evidence. I want to see studies. How do we know this tax would change behavior? Good readers, think through the impacts of an argument. If this tax went into effect, what would the consequences be? Are there faults in the author's logic? It might stop some people from buying soda, but in an unfair way. Here's how I'm processing this as a reader. If you take a bottle of soda that previously cost, say, $2, and the tax makes it $10, that will make it more difficult to purchase. But to a millionaire, the difference between $2 and $10 is basically nothing, whereas to a poor or middle-class person, that $8 difference adds up pretty quickly. I see this as a possible unintended consequence of this proposal, that it hits poor people harder than rich people. As readers, it's not just our responsibility to interpret what the author's saying, we also have to ask ourselves, what are they not saying? In the second argument, the author is arguing that it isn't the government's responsibility to determine how much sugar people consume, and therefore taxes on sugary drinks are unnecessary. So now I'm asking, whose responsibility is it to determine how much sugar is in a drink? Why is sugar so inexpensive to begin with? Do legislators have a responsibility there? Now, no, it's not legal to bottle rat poison and sell it as tea, but whose responsibility is that? What isn't this author saying? And how does not saying it serve their argument? They're not saying what the government could or should do, only what it shouldn't do. And this is why I want you to be skeptical whenever you read anyone's argument about anything. You need to figure out what the terms of the debate are. What does the argument assume as a given? What's a problem worth fixing? What are the trade-offs that the writer thinks are acceptable? So when you encounter an argument in text, look for the claims, and then look to see if those claims are backed up with data-supported reasoning. Is the author using evidence and logic? Do they anticipate objections to their arguments and push back on or incorporate those critiques? Above all else, I want you to remain skeptical. Everyone's selling something. Even me. It's just the thing I'm trying to sell you is the fundamental idea that you can learn anything. You've got this, readers. David out.
Okay. So those are these videos are really good from Khan Academy. Have you ever seen any videos from Khan Academy?
Yeah.
Maybe like in school. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
So here's what I'll do. I'm going to were you
Hello,
able to
readers. Today we shall take
were you able to get any notes down from this first try, or were
Yeah.
you waiting for the second try? Did you?
Yeah, I got enough notes for
Okay. All right, sounds good. So do me a favor, share some of the notes that you got with me. What did you get about his idea or this person's idea of what an argument entails, or what it should have?
I wrote like think of the consequences of the argument. Like
Okay.
Also your opinions need to be backed up with evidence. And I mostly had things like when you're reading an argument, what should you do?
When what you should do when you're actually reading an argument that somebody wrote?
Mm-hmm.
To remain skeptical. Remember, remain
Yeah.
skeptical. Never be that easy to like jump in and say, oh yeah, I believe this person, I believe what this person's saying. It's always good to, I mean, let's be real. When we read an argument or a magazine or within a text or something like that, and we read somebody's argument and we read the other person's counter argument, do we really go back and say, okay, this person said this, let me look it up, let me check to see if this person was correct? Do we really ever do that?
Not really.
No, not really, right? But here's what I will say that is important to have within your writing when you're writing an argument. What is important to have in your writing when you're writing an argument is to have your sources in there, to cite your evidence, because when you have your evidence cited, then that makes it more valid and more reasonable for the person that's reading it to choose a side or to choose the argument that they really believe in. Now, there can be somebody that writes kind of like the example that they were giving there about the soda. There wasn't really any cold hard facts, as he was saying, within those writings. It was just these two people writing about their opinion, right? Now, when somebody's writing a good argumentative essay, they have the evidence there, they have the evidence cited, they have their sources within their writing. That's what makes it valid, and that's what makes it justifiable for that person to write their argument. Because let's just say, if Tallis is just this like little Einstein person, and he's like, okay, I choose this person's argument, but I'm going to take it a step further, and I'm going to go and review this person's evidence, or look at the sources that he chose to put in his writing. If you find that it was a lie, or that it was false, then obviously you would think about following this person's argument even further, or for another time that he might have written something. So that's just kind of like a general kind of way of viewing it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So yesterday when we had the class as well for the L5, I don't know if you remember seeing this about what an argument is. So simply put, an argument is an opinion or claim supported by evidence. Okay, evidence can take on different forms depending on the nature of the argument, the purpose of the argument, and the needs of the audience. Something that is argumentative is not and does not necessarily have to attempt to persuade. An argument is simply an opinion supported by evidence. Persuasion involves moving people to act. Okay, although an argument doesn't have to persuade people, an argument can implicitly be persuasive, depending on how the person takes it. Okay, so parts of an argument, let me remove this part right here. Parts of an argument. So we have the claim, the reason, and the evidence. Under the claim is a statement of opinion about something which is able to be argued for or argued against using the support of evidence and tied together by reasons. Stated another way, claims equals opinions that can be supported. The reason is a statement that supports or backs up a claim. It answers the question, why did you say that? And evidence, details, facts, text evidence, and reasons that support a claim. It must be relevant, relate to the reason, and it must be enough or sufficient to support the reason. This is always very huge, the evidence. Because you don't want to be an argument, you don't want to be a writer, and you don't want to be that writer that makes false claims. Oh, I'm just going to make something up and put together some gibberish of sources, of evidence, and it's just a big old lie of a paper that you decided to write. Okay, so just always remember the CER, claim, evidence, reasoning. Statement about the results of an investigation for the claim. Under evidence, it's the scientific data used to support the claim. And then reasoning, it ties together the claim and the evidence. So when we're taking this, when we're on this lesson, Talis, within the semester, notice how under evidence it says science data used to support the claim. So when we're actually going into the argument paper that you guys will eventually get to and write, you're gonna see that we teach you and we coach you on how much data is really good to have within your paper. How much data is too much and how much data is not enough, and how much is not enough data, if that makes sense to you. So we kind of like, I'll be teaching you and I'll be helping you determine, because when you have a lot of data in your writing, what does that do for the reader? What do you think it does to the reader when there's just so many numbers and there's all this data and all these percentages? What do you think it's going to do to the reader?
Confuse them.
Yeah, it'll probably confuse them, right? Or it'll probably bore them. It'll probably bore them because, hey, maybe that reader doesn't like math. And when he sees percentages or when they see numbers, they're like, oh my God, it's just much. Like, why did I even bother reading this? But there is a good amount of data to put in a paper to support your reasoning. Okay, I'm not saying that it's not a bad thing to do. It's just about understanding the right amount to do so that you don't lose your reader, you don't lose your audience.
Yeah.
Okay, so yesterday we kind of went over, do you remember writing a reconstruction?
Yeah.
We're kind of reviewing this. Okay, so the reconstruction, it has a premise one, a premise two, and then it has a conclusion. So this is a different way of writing a summary, basically. It's a different way of writing a quick summary to something that you have read, and it gives you, it teaches you about the premise. Now, when the semester does start and when we are on this lesson, Talis, we do go into further detail as to what a premise is. Do you know what a premise is?
I kind of do, just I don't really know how to explain it.
Give it a shot. Try your best. Think about it for a little bit and then try your best to explain it.
Kind of like some I don't really know.
Oh, okay, hold on. We have someone coming in and I just let them in. So it's basically kind of like the main points of what you were reading about. What the author's main point was trying to convey within the writing. But usually there's more than one. Okay, and it's a matter of breaking it down to really find out what the premise is, what premise you're going to use for premise one, premise two, and then for your overall conclusion. Okay, let me introduce myself really quickly to the person that joined us. Hello, person joining from an iPhone. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Okay, good. I'm Mr. Christopher. I'm leading the trial class for today. Okay, we've already made our way through. So if you have any questions as we move along, feel free to ask questions by unmuting or in the chat box.
Thank you. Got it.
Yeah. What is your name?
Michelle.
Michelle?
Mhm.
Okay, nice to meet you, Michelle. Thank you for joining us. I'm glad you're here. All right, Mr. Tullis. So we're gonna move on. Let's go here. Okay. So while reading the article, here's what I'm going to have you do this time. Okay, Tullis and Michelle, feel free to join. Basically, we haven't really gone too much into depth into this lesson, Michelle. Let me give you a little bit of background as to what the purpose of this trial class is for. I don't know if you've ever attended one with 7EDU. This is just to give you a little taste or a little insight look as to what you will be seeing if you decide to join this class for the semester. What is something that you will be seeing for the semester? Okay, being part of 7EDU CRW L4 class. Okay, I just want to give you that really quickly before I move on. So before we go into the article, Tullis and Michelle, here's what I'm going to have you guys or ask you guys to do. I'm going to ask that you guys write down each individual claim. Okay, consider the evidence used by the author and write down their conclusion and explain how they got there. Okay, we probably will only get to the first one. It's not very long, but it is kind of long. But let's see if we can at least get through this first one as far as identifying the claim and evidence. Okay. Letting somebody else in. Okay, so identifying a slide. Sorry, guys. So identifying the claim and then considering some of the evidence used by the author and then write down a conclusion and explain how they got there, okay? So we'll only do this for one. We're not going to do it for both. We're not going to, I think by the time we're done with this one, it'll be it'll be the end of class. If you guys have any questions, by all means, that'll be a good time for you guys to ask, okay? So from yesterday's class, it didn't ask you guys this: what are the main claims and what proof do they use? Yesterday was asking us the questions were a little bit more rigorous and they were more on the reconstruction. So the L5 is already assuming, or it's being delivered as if you already know what this stuff pretty much is, what a claim is and how to find the claim within a writing. The L4 class is we're gonna guide you as to identifying main claims and identifying the proof that they use for their main claim. Does that make sense, Tullis?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Tullis, I'm gonna ask that you please lead us in our reading. I'm going to make it a little bit larger so that we can see it. I just don't want to move it to where. Okay, here we go.
All right. Some of our most pronounced intellectual weaknesses are the byproduct of our greatest intellectual strengths. Many perceptual illusions, for example, are the result of the brain's remarkable facility for organizing income sensations into meaningful units. The widespread acceptance of astrological claims, although misguided in light of empirical evidence
Good.
on the subject, can likewise be traced to one of the mind's most remarkable faculties. The brain's job is to make sense of the world, and it does so easily, rapidly, and generally accurately by finding connections between things. And those connections.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, I was gonna pause you right there. Oh, we
Right.
lost our others. I was gonna see if she wanted to read at that point, but go ahead and continue. Go ahead and continue reading. I'll jump in on that next paragraph.
And those connections can be easy to find. If you know a bit about astrology and learn that a friend is a Libra, you may identify automatically and effortlessly parts of your friend's personality that are said to be characteristics of Libras. Most people have multi-faced personalities, and Libras are thought to have a variety of traits, so some notable matches are inevitable.
Okay, I'll go ahead and read this part. This is the widely cited confirmation bias at work to say Jody is a Libra is to state an implicit hypothesis that Jody has the traits of a Libra. The mind will then automatically examine that hypothesis by looking for evidence that it's true, by finding links between the characteristics of Jody and the traits thought to characterize Libras. Again, because there is a lot that can be said about both Jody and Libras, overlapping characteristics are rarely hard to find. Okay, I'm gonna continue on this one. This is the same article, just continued on a different slide.
Yeah.
Okay, so we already okay, I already read that paragraph. So I'm going to continue. Sometimes, of course, people actively want to believe astrological claims and therefore look extra hard to find these links. In those cases, the confirmation bias is especially pronounced. You want to continue?
Sure. But this bias rears its head even when a person has no motivational stake in whether astrology is valid or not. Suppose someone gives you some primroses for your garden and says, I think they need a lot of watering, but you should test that out. How would you do so? Chances are you would water them a lot and see how they do. What you probably wouldn't do is give half of them a lot of water and the other half much less in order to examine evidence both consistent and inconsistent with the hypothesis. Critical thinking is all about conducting these more balanced inquiries. Without them, we believe in all sorts of things that aren't true.
Okay, very good. Okay, so here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Within the next 5 minutes or so, do me a favor. I want you to help me determine what are the main claims, or what is the main claim in this article? What are the main claims, and what proof does this writer use within their writing? You have an idea of what the main claim is?
The acceptance of astrological wait. It's mostly about the brain.
Okay, it's mostly about the brain, but what about the brain? What about the brain and how we see people, right? That's kind of where it was going, kind of how we perceive people based off of what?
Astrology. Astrology.
As astrology or astrological signs, right? So automatically what this article is telling us is that based off of, let's go with the person that they're talking about, Jody. Right here. So based off of what they're saying about Jody, that Jody is the Libra. Okay, so Jody is a Libra. That is to state an implicit hypothesis, that Jody has the traits of a Libra. The mind will then automatically examine that hypothesis by looking for evidence that is true. So because the fact that Jody is a Libra, what this article is saying is that our mind is automatically going to start kind of studying Jody a little bit more to see if in fact what her astrological sign says about her is in fact true about Jody. Okay, but without without the astrological signs, or without those characteristics that those astrological readings give us about certain people, or about those horoscopes, what would we base our facts on about people? What would we need to do to base our facts on about people without even having an astrological sign or a reading? What would we do?
Like get to know them better.
Yeah, kind of like how we mentioned yesterday, right? Get to know them better. You would have to get to know them better, obviously, in order to decide or to understand what this person is about, who this person really is. Is this an honest person? Is this a lovely person? Is this a kind person? Because her Jody's astrological sign is saying this about her, but I know Jody from a one-on-one perspective, on a personal level, and maybe it's true, maybe it's not. But
Yeah.
back again, it's going back to what the mind thinks, and what the mind uses to make this assumption about who people really are. Okay. Now let's think about this really quickly. What proof do they use? What proof can we say they use in this to give us an idea about what you said? It's about the brain and how it perceives people based off of their astrological sign. What's some good proof that we can get from here?
It says if you know a bit about astrology and learn that a friend is a Libra, you may identify automatically and effortlessly parts of your friend's personality that are said to be characteristics of Libras.
Okay, good. I know that was a long sentence, but yeah, that's some good proof right there. Also, the next one, most people have multifaceted personalities, and Libras are thought to have a variety of traits. So some notable matches are inevitable. So, like think about you on a good day, think about yourself on a bad day, think about yourself on an okay day, think about yourself on a loving day, you're just love's in the air, you're feeling it, whatever it might be, with the people that care about you, the people that care for you, or maybe a specific someone. And let's just say your astrological sign is saying, oh yeah, what's your astrological sign?
Aquarius.
So let's just say for that particular time, it says an Aquarius is loving and kind, but sometimes can be upset, or get upset easily, or whatever. I'm just making this up, of course.
Yeah.
So when you see it, you're like, whoa, wait, maybe this is me. Or when a close friend of yours or a relative sees it, they're like, oh yeah, that's Taurus for sure. But
Yeah.
it's just how we work as humans, and how our minds work, and just reading people, getting evidence, basically coming back to getting evidence. I mean, getting to know the person, how you said. Okay, so thank you for joining me on that reading. Let's move on just a little bit more so you can get an idea of what is also shown on this one. Okay, so now it's going to break it up. It's going to break it up a little bit more. We're going to go into main claim and subclaims. Are you familiar with main claim and subclaims?
Yeah, the thesis.
Yeah. So it's a statement about an issue that asserts a perspective. Your main claim is a thesis statement. Now the reasons or subclaims, it's the because statement that supports the claim. You will have multiple subclaims within your writing to support your overall main claim. It's your reasons, it's your reasoning, why you believe this, why you believe the certain main claim or whatever. So if this is something that you're not really polished on, or you're not really, certain about, then again, back to what I was talking to you about at the beginning, maybe L4 is the good class for you to take. Remember, just because it says 6th and 7th doesn't mean you have to say, oh man, I'll pass that if there's going to be 6th graders, because you can always continue. If you continue with 7 Edu, then eventually you'll get to the L5 class. Well, it'll just kind of smoothly guide you into it, and you'll be set and ready for that. And then the overall thing is, it helps you with your overall academics, with your school, This is obviously not to take over your school. This is just to give you, to help you polish or sharpen, those skills that you already have. So again, look, it breaks it up even more, the thesis and subclaims. So a thesis claim, really quickly, video games have many positive outcomes for players. Note, not a well-worded thesis, but you get the idea. And then some subclaims that will back that thesis up is video games teach us how to deal with frustration. Video games teach complex task management. Video games teach real-world cooperation skills. So we were writing an essay already, and this was our thesis claim, that video games have many positive outcomes for players. The subclaims, these 3 subclaims would be 3 good ideas for your middle body paragraphs. When you write an essay, you have your introduction, and then your 3 body paragraphs, and then your conclusion. Is that normally how you write yours?
Yeah.
These subclaims right here would be good ideas for your middle body paragraphs, and then you just elaborate on them. You start researching on that. You start going into, okay, how do video games help us with frustration? You got to go find a source that talks about it, and then there you go. You work on it. That's your first paragraph. So subclaims, eventually, the way I like to teach it and the way we discuss it in our class is those eventually become your middle body paragraphs to back up your overall thesis claim. Okay, so I'm gonna pause right there. I don't want to overwhelm you with much more. We got about a minute left. Do you have any questions for this CRWL4 class, or even questions about yesterday's class that you didn't have a chance to ask?
Well, last year my 6th grade ELA teacher had us write a persuasive, I think it was, you had a choice of persuasive or an argumentative essay, and I think I still kind of remember what we were like learning, so maybe L5 is like a better one for me. Better class for me.
5 is better. So this is one thing that I also want you to remember. So because you wrote an argumentative essay in 6th grade, you chose to write an argumentative essay in 6th grade or a persuasive essay or whichever one. Remember that when it comes to English language arts and reading, things, once you get to a certain age, like for you, you're already in middle school, things are not really ever you're not gonna learn much more new things, but things will get a little bit more rigorous as to what your teachers are looking for in your writing, as to different concepts that they might throw in within argumentative writing, persuasive writing. But if you did a really good job with an argumentative essay and you feel like L5 is something that you want to see, hey, by all means, man, I would say you're within the grade level, so why not give it a try? And I hope to see you when the semester starts.
All right.
Tell your buddy Tony to sign up as well.
Wait, will we be in the same class?
You would, if you guys choose L5, you guys would be in the same class.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, Talis, it was nice seeing you again. You have yourself a good night. All right, you got it.
Yeah, you have a good night too. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.